chromosomes divide हो गए, लेकिन अब सेल दो पार्ट्स में कैसे बटेगा? Welcome back, future doctors, to another high-energy explainer. You've totally mastered prophase all the way through to telophase, and the nucleus has officially done its job. But what about the physical cell itself? Grab your notes, because today we're cracking the absolute final stages of cell division.
Right, so think about it. The DNA is perfectly copied, and it's sitting in two brand new nuclei at opposite ends of the cell. But right now, they're stuck sharing the exact same room. So how does this biological house actually split to give them their own space?
Well, in today's explainer, we've got 5 quick targets: the final split, animal versus plant cells, what happens when cytokinesis fails, why mitosis actually matters, and we'll wrap up with a quick NEET quiz.
All right, let's jump straight into it. Section 1, the final split, also known as cytokinesis. Up until now, we've been talking heavily about karyokinesis, right? That's the division of the nucleus. But honestly, that's completely useless if the cytoplasm itself doesn't break apart. Mitosis segregates those duplicated chromosomes perfectly, but the cell has to be divided by a totally separate process. That process is cytokinesis. It's only at the very end of this physical segregation that cell division is actually fully complete. The cytoplasm is physically cut right down the middle, giving birth to 2 independent daughter cells.
Moving on to Section 2, let's look at animal versus plant cells, because they actually do this quite differently.
Okay, this is where the biology gets really cool. Imagine a squishy water balloon. That's your animal cell. To divide it, a furrow appears in the plasma membrane and just pulls tighter and tighter from the outside in, pinching it right into 2 pieces. But plant cells, they have a rigid, inextensible cell wall. Unko ab pinch nahi kar sakte. You can't squeeze them. So instead, wall formation starts right in the dead center of the cell and grows outward. Yaad rakhne ke liye ek simple memory trick. P for plant, P for plate. Plant cells use a cell plate that grows from the inside out.
Guys, listen up, because this is a massive NEET alert. This new wall in plant cells begins as a simple precursor called the cell plate. And here is the high-yield part. That cell plate represents the middle lamella between 2 adjacent cells. You absolutely have to mark this in your brain. Oh, and while all this is happening, the cell's organelles, like the mitochondria and plastids, get fairly distributed to the 2 new daughter cells.
Time for Section 3, when cytokinesis fails, and the formation of a syncytium.
So, what if there's a glitch in the matrix? Time for another NEET alert. When karyokinesis happens, meaning the nucleus divides, but it is actually not followed by cytokinesis, you end up with a single cell stuffed with multiple nuclei. This is called a multinucleate condition, or a syncytium. Sounds like some weird science fiction, right? But honestly, you've probably consumed this biological glitch yourself. The absolute best real-world example is the liquid endosperm in a coconut. Yeah, that refreshing coconut water you drink? It's actually a massive syncytium. It's just thousands of free nuclei floating around because the cell never completed cytokinesis. Samajaya? Science is quite literally in your hands.
Let's move to Section 4, why mitosis actually matters.
So we have to ask the big practical question. Why does our body even bother doing this complex equational division? Well, the most fundamental truth about mitosis is that it produces diploid daughter cells with an identical genetic complement. It's an exact perfect copy-paste mechanism. There's no crossing over, no mixing of traits. This rock-solid guarantee of a perfect genetic copy is literally the foundation for how all multicellular organisms survive, grow, and heal.
Let's break down this biological significance a bit further. First, that identical genetic complement, which we just covered. Second, multicellular growth. You didn't start out this tall. You grew simply because of mitosis. But the third point, this is absolute gold, restoring the disturbed nucleocytoplasmic ratio. Okay, think of the nucleus as the principal of a school, and the school itself is the cell. If the school gets too big, meaning the cell grows and the cytoplasm increases too much, the principal just can't manage all those students effectively. The ratio is totally disturbed. So what's the solution? The cell divides, creating 2 smaller schools, each with its own principal. Mitosis perfectly restores management.
And it's definitely not just about growing taller. It's about staying alive right this very second. A hugely significant contribution of mitosis is cell repair. As we speak, the upper layer of your epidermis, your skin, the really delicate lining of your gut, and your blood cells are constantly dying and being replaced. Without mitosis running continuously in the background, making those perfect replacement copies, our bodies would literally just wear away.
Now, contrast our human growth with plant growth. Us animals, we stop growing at a certain age, right? But plants, they have a literal cheat code for infinite growth. This biological cheat code is called meristematic tissues, specifically the apical and lateral cambium. Because of continuous mitotic divisions in these specific tissues, plants can just keep growing new leaves, branches, and roots throughout their entire lives. They literally never stop.
And that brings us to Section 5, the NEET quiz and wrap-up. Let's see what you remember.
All right, here is your question. Let's see who is paying attention. Which specific tissues are responsible for the continuous growth of plants throughout their life? Think back to that plant cheat code we literally just talked about. Shout it out if you know it. I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! The answer is meristematic tissues, specifically the apical and lateral cambium. If you got that right, definitely pat yourself on the back. Your focus is absolutely on point today. If you missed it, hey, no worries at all. That's exactly why we review. Just remember, these specific tissues are constantly undergoing mitosis to keep that plant reaching up for the sun.
And with that, we have officially conquered cytokinesis and the significance of mitosis. You now know exactly how cells physically split and why they absolutely need to do it. But get ready, because things are about to get even more exciting. Next lecture mein shuru hoga meiosis, the division that creates variation. Fire! Keep revising, stay super focused, and I will see you in the next explainer.